I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
All right, has the meeting been called to order?
It's not 7 o'clock yet, but I call the meeting to order.
Oh, I looked at my phone, it said 7, that's
Yes,
why I
it
said
is.
that.
It's
Oh.
7 o'clock.
I'll call the meeting to order. I just want to welcome Sue back. We're glad to see her back. It's been a long road
Yes, happy to be here.
without her, so she looks good. Anyway,
Thank you.
motion to open the public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Oh, who's taking
All
minutes?
right. Public hearing is open. This evening, we have Joe to come. Joe, lucky you.
Some of us are just not.
So in your packets, everything
Here.
is a worksheet. So you can work, that's, you have your originals that I sent you of the warrants, but these are all worksheets where we can vote in, but all the wording is the same.
Okay. Joe, there was one on the special, was there not?
Yes, there is one on the special.
That was Article 17.
So,
Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Have I got you? All right, Joe, you can start with Article
Okay.
17 if you want to.
okay.
Oh, I have you there.
Hey, Eric,
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I just saw it there.
Erica's not coming
Can
tonight.
sit at the big boys' table.
You said that before. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Joe, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for asking me to come and speak about the zoning articles that are being submitted by not only the planning board, but also I'll speak about petitions article, and then also article that's being submitted through the town administrator's office for the special. So starting off with the special, Article 17. It's a pretty straightforward article. I worked with town administrator in preparing it. For anyone that's attended or at least watched some of the recent Board of Selectmen meetings, Tim had let the Board of Selectmen know that the town had been contacted by a real estate firm representing Wyman Gordon on, as well as staff from the Wyman Gordon facility about their interest in carving off a front portion of the property, basically the admin building and the field up front.
There were the
up to
kids used to play
Worcester Street.
soccer.
Yes. Yes. So it's roughly about 23 acres in size, and we had met about a week and a half ago with a pharmaceutical company that actually was really interested in that site. Zoning was allowed that use, easy on access to the pike. Ultimately, they didn't choose it, but in evaluating the zoning and asking about permitting timeframes, we sort of realized that this may be a good opportunity to add this parcel within the expedited permitting 43D district. That's what this Article 17, the special town meeting proposes to do. It basically just adds that as a expedited permitting site. What basically that means is that the town and the property owner end up in an agreement, and the town a commitment to obtain local approvals within 180 days. You're talking about 6 months. It's something that for most non-residential projects, Planning Board Conservation do a good job at doing, and it allows for, once an application is complete and deemed complete, so you take a number of months to deem a application complete, and then you basically just go full force in the review. It allows for the town to, through basically staff in my office, to coordinate that review with various departments. This came up last sort of minute, again, because of that inquiry from Wyman Gordon. And we felt that if it was something that we were going to encourage economic development, and again, we're not changing the uses, it's just the time frame by which approvals are obtained, that this would make it at least advantageous for anyone looking at the site. The Planning Board's public hearing is scheduled for May 6th. That's already been advertised and informed the planning board at Monday night's meeting about that public hearing. And, we'll see what kind of public comment we have. I'll probably have a draft report that night, so as the board moves on with business, I can quickly make changes and then we can approve it that night, since it is a week before town meeting.
Now, can I just ask this, because we would like to, I mean, this zoning is important for 43D. Can I assume that most of the planning board members will approve this?
I'm hoping so. So again, it doesn't change the uses that are permitted, doesn't
Right.
change any of the.
Right.
It's just speeding up the
Just
process to
speeding
get it
up the
permitted.
process.
Exactly. And the board had been supportive when we added the mass development land, as well as the Rush One property, which is
Okay.
what was purchased by UPS. Based on past, and those were all proposed by the planning board.
Right.
I'm hopeful, and at least I have not been contacted
Okay.
separately saying I have a real problem with this issue.
Okay.
Well, if it was submitted by the planning board, I would hope that they would support it, right?
Well, they put it on the warrant, so I'm assuming they do. And usually, and this is the process we usually have, we usually got the reports from the planning
Yeah.
board, then voted. But because these are issues that are so important, and I think for some of the hearings that I've heard, that the planning board is supporting these things, so I
Should
don't
we-
think we're gonna go wrong. I would support it anyway if they opposed it, so.
I think it's a great, I think
So
it's a
do
great
I.
idea. Anytime you can get something permitted quickly, and the important thing is the application is complete when it comes in, so
Right.
there's no, oh, by the way, I
Right.
forgot to go to the ZBA or whatever.
Right,
The application is 100%,
And
so.
we have some other parcels in town that are 43D, so.
No, I think it's, I love 43D, so.
Yep.
I'm ready to
Right.
make a motion to support this, if you're ready to support it.
Well, they haven't had a
Oh,
public.
you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is there any consideration, you have the main road in front. Is there any potential impact on that relatively small road behind Wyman Gordon?
So are you referring to on the other side of Worcester Street, there's that frontage road that serves the single-family homes?
No, it would be behind.
Between the field and the
Parking lot?
administrative building.
No,
There's the
if you're
field,
if you're
there's all of the
going-
buildings, and then there's a
towards
road in the back.
Worcester.
It's Creeper Hill?
Oh, no, it doesn't impact that.
Doesn't do it.
Wyman Gordon ends at the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks are between.
Oh, okay,
You have Wyman Gordon, railroad tracks, other properties that then front on Creeper Hill.
okay.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
does it change, so most of that frontage, all of that soccer field frontage would be part of this 23 acres? So then you've
All
got
of
the driveway.
the way that I have it drafted here is that all of the Wyman Gordon site would be 43D because there's no parcel line. So to say,
Right.
measure back 300 feet and then go across,
Makes sense to do the whole parcel.
right.
Yep.
Okay, the only thing I want to make sure of is if they're partitioning this off, meaning they're going to sell it, so now we have two parcels? Okay, so what I just want to make sure of is that when they do that, that they still have a parcel that has frontage.
That, one of the things is that Wyman Gordon was basically putting out essentially a request for proposals, basically
Yeah.
saying this is going to be available. They're going to have to come in front of the planning board for any sort of A&R. They're going to want to make sure that they remain a legal conforming lot.
Right, that's what I
with
was
some
thinking.
form of frontage, so, yes.
So the main point of this article, though, is to
Speed up the
speed up the process for
Right.
Exactly.
43D.
Gotcha.
So all
Okay.
the zoning doesn't change, so
Right.
we're okay.
I make a motion, we support Article 17 as submitted.
Second,
Second that.
Motion's been made second. Discussion. Any other further questions that you have for Joe? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 30 of the annual, Joe.
Gonna say, special town meeting, I'm done and over with.
Good.
That's,
I'm sorry.
I'm out of here. Okay. So
I've
Article 30,
written-
we're getting into, the following articles end up being things that the planning board submitted.
Sue, I'm sorry. Sue, did you get all that? Because I know you're
Yes.
getting back into
Yes,
action here. We
I
don't
am a
want to
little
go too
slower.
fast.
Yes, but yeah, I'm doing okay, thank
We
you.
need to be a little slower because Sue's trying to get back into,
Yes, in the mode.
in the mode again, so. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Starting with Article 30. So, at least a little bit of background on what led us to Article 30. 2 years ago, the town received funding from the state through EEA, smart planning, smart growth grant fund, to examine creating a village district. We chose that location for around the Bullock Plaza, the property at 125 215 Worcester Street. We engaged in a public process, held public forums up at the Brigham Hill Community Barn, had neighborhood walks where residents within that Amherst neighborhood, basically everyone that was around Bullock Plaza, came out. We walked the site and then held a workshop behind it. We came out with the Worcester Street Village Strategic Plan. Then following that, we received funding again to prepare a zoning bylaw. We retained the same consultant team who did the plan and engaged in a public process, basically nearly a year-long public planning process to develop zoning for the Bullock Plaza area. Soon into developing the bylaw, we sort of realized that rather than coming up with yet another village district, we decided to use as the foundation the existing village mixed-use zoning district in South Grafton. That district, which was approved, I believe, in 2012, hadn't actually been used up until this point. There was some inquiries, but there was a lot of confusion as far as what that process looked like, what kind of flexibility. So within this project, the consultants and the planning board and staff were able to address some of the deficiencies in the existing village mixed use, add additional design criteria and flexibility within the existing bylaw. And so what Article 30 does, thinking about this backdrop of Bullock Plaza, is it makes first the changes to the village mixed use that then will allow for us to utilize this in other areas. So Article 30 is basically amendments to the existing village mixed use that came out of that Worcester Street Village study strategic plan. If you look at page count, and I know there's an inverse relationship between the number of pages a document is for a bylaw and the likelihood for town meeting to adopt it. We debated about how do we carve this, how do we shorten it, and we sort of are of the opinion we're just going to make the case that this is long because we have a lot of descriptive tables, we have a lot of illustrations that explain what we want to do. I'm so used to throwing things up on the screen, I realize we don't have that. But if anyone had the full text, you'll see a number of images, graphic tables, identify different development types, architectural articulation. So yes, it does end up increasing the number of pages, but we felt it was needed because ultimately with the village mixed use, the idea is that you're not coming in for a local board approval. You are applying for a project straight to the building department as long as you meet design criteria and density criteria. Because of that, that's why we have all these illustrations and things that are needed to be able to inform the applicants, this is what we're looking for. It does allow, by way of special permit, for density to be increased, or some specific uses may require a special permit. But for the most part, the intent is for someone to and I'll be quite blunt here, buy 215 Worcester Street, develop a plan, apply to the building department, meet all these criterias, and develop it. I know that sounds a little scary as far as municipal government, but there is a lot of precedent as far as Massachusetts. There's this isn't quite form-based code where you identify based on a calculation what zoning allows, but this is basically dictating what the planning board would like development to happen. And again, this is the existing bylaw. Someone in South Grafton could do this right now, but we're giving more flexibility to development types, more articulation as far as what we want things to look like. So that ends up being Article 30.
Basically, what you're doing is you're updating this zoning district already to allow creation in other areas.
And to address complaints we had about flexibility and to provide more design guidelines for ultimate implementation.
Got it.
That's what the planning board is going to end up wanting at the end of the day. Anyway,
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's ultimately what Article 30 does.
Okay, thank you.
And again, the planning board, we did have our public hearing. They did direct staff to prepare a planning board report recommending approval. That report just isn't completed yet.
The planning board's unanimous in support of this
Yes.
article.
Joe, from what I remember, the Bullock Plaza idea, let's see, this started when Cumberland Farms was going to come in. And there were surrounding neighbor issues, concerns with spillover lighting,
Yep.
noise, and the big tanks.
Yes.
Whatever's in the fuel tanks. Does this take care of those issues? I think,
So that's why we did the Worcester Street Village strategic plan in the first place. We wanted to proactively, as a result of that Cumberland Farms effort, engage the community, identify what they want. If they didn't want to have a village environment, we weren't going to come up with this bylaw. We wanted to engage them and identify what they wanted this neighborhood to look like. It's a 1950s neighborhood. Bullock Plaza is the village center. A lot of us don't really think about it that way, but that's how it functions. And when you look at it from an aerial map, it's plain as day. So we wanted their support as we did this project. And amazingly, vast majority of the people who were on the neighborhood walk and then came to the meeting basically said, we want what is there, just nice, just better.
Yeah.
So better buildings, better architecture, better public private space. So that's what then fed into the bylaw effort, which then amends the existing village mixed-use district.
okay.
Can I take questions later? Well, do you want to ask Joe? Carrie?
The question that I had is related to Article
Do
30.
do you have
Can I
to
have
do the,
to the
hello,
podium.
this is who I am, and the microphone and all that?
Yeah.
Well, just so the people at home can hear what she's asking, they watch the tape.
Yep, Carrie, just take the microphone and,
Over here, podium.
right here.
Hello, I'm Carrie Hogan. I just had a question with regards to Article 30, and this, and I have to, say, I just realized, what this article is about. So my understanding from reading this is that we're kind of expanding the village mixed-use zone, kind of combining a few together, is that correct?
Not in this article. These series of articles, 30, 31, and 32. 31 amends the language for the village mixed-use district. It provides more descriptions as far as architectural design types, amenities, even down to public amenities like street trees, bikes, public spaces, things that currently the existing village mixed use does not do. 31 then amends the zoning map to include the area for 215 Worcester Street, 1 Hawthorne, and 2 other properties to be within the village mixed use. And then another one identifies another location up in North Grafton on Route 30 for then inclusion in this village mixed-use district.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. So the question that I have then relates to Article 37. And Article 37 addresses village mixed-use zoning. So if these changes were made, would Article 37 then affect that larger area?
No. So, and the reason is that article, and I know we're jumping around
Yeah,
a
we
little
are.
bit. Article 37 is specific, village mixed-use South Grafton. It's only amending the use table, and within the use table, there's going to be a village mixed-use South Grafton, village mixed-use Worcester Street, village mixed-use Transit Village.
Okay, so they still will be distinct.
Yes, they will be distinct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. All right.
You handled 32 and 30, 31 and 32 very
Yeah.
quickly there.
Right, so 31,
You've just
That's a-
answered that in 32, basically.
but
What 31
she does
you want
raise,
in?
she does raise a good point that just to differentiate, Article 31 creates the structure by amending the village mixed use. And within that structure, we left room for creating sub-districts of village mixed use. That's where Article 31 comes in and creates this Worcester Street Neighborhood Center Village Mixed Use. So that will be a separate use table, and some of those uses can and may change over time because compared to South Grafton, Worcester Street may be a little different. Densities may be a little different. So we want to be able to create a framework where these three different areas that ultimately will be zoned village mixed use can have their own character, have their own uses, even have some of their own provisions. So we set the structure up in Article 30. 31 just adds village mixed use Worcester Street as a second sub-zone within that village mixed use zone.
And then 32 does it for Worcester Street?
31's Worcester Street, 32 is Transit Village.
Transit Village, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Transit Village. So is this sort of to promote development in those various areas?
Yes.
Makes sense.
So-
32, you need to add anything else? I think you pretty much answered that.
Exactly, and basically, both the Worcester Street and the Transit Village are implementing recommendations that came out of both planning efforts. The Worcester Street Strategic Plan.
That was easy for you to say.
Yeah, I'm like looking at this water going, I think I might have to open that up. And then the Transit Village, that North Grafton Transit Village plan recommended creating mixed use along that section of Route 30. So this series of articles is basically taking both recommendation sets out of those plans and then implementing those zoning recommendations.
Article 33.
Now we get into more of the interesting ones. So with Article 33, last February, February 2018, the planning board had decided to put a number of articles dealing with marijuana establishments to town meeting for them to consider for approval. Town meeting approved the bylaw, and then it approved the districts. So I just want to make sure this actually turns off. Okay. So we approved the bylaw, and then we approved the districts to go in. Office light industrial districts is what town meeting approved to allow for marijuana retail facilities. Other uses that were permitted in there were everything from cultivation to manufacturing to research facilities, testing facilities. Fast forward, over the last year, myself and other land use departments have had a lot of inquiries as far as locating marijuana retailers within town. A lot of the locations that were identified and even discussed with the Board of Selectmen really were in locations that they met the zoning, but they weren't in the best locations. Either areas that were heavily congested with traffic or didn't have enough parking. And so one of the things that was voiced to the development team, and then I relayed that to the planning board, is that for people that are looking for retail locations, there really isn't available space as far as meeting a tenant fit out. Someone going in, leasing a space, preparing whatever approvals they need for the Cannabis Control Commission, because it is more than just a local process, and opening a marijuana retail facility. So in discussing things with the board always had thought, seeing how the bylaw would be implemented, coming back to revisit some of the districts. And they decided this town meeting to see if town meeting wanted to consider allowing it by way of a special permit within the community business district. Just note, all of those marijuana uses require a special permit. The Cannabis Control Commission has stringent requirements for application, and special permit does allow a level of discretion with the planning board to evaluate impacts to the neighborhood, impacts traffic, quality of life issues, in addition to site-specific issues. So the planning board decided to submit this for consideration of town meeting. It did, I believe, if the numbers come back to me, I know it was a majority. I think it got 60%, but it didn't get the 2/3, so 66.7%.
By a few votes.
So that's why the planning board brought that back for town meeting's consideration.
Can you give me an idea where one of those districts in town is located?
Community business ends up being the commercial corridor on Worcester Street out by Wyman Gordon, so where Cumberland Farms is, back to Five Star Liquors. And then you have from CVS down to the end of the commercial block by
So,
Peralt is R20, but on the other side of Snow, Carroll is community business.
Okay.
Those are the
Isn't there
two
a
areas.
Third spot off of,
There is a third spot off of Providence Road. It's basically as you come come north from on Providence Road, and you come around that corner, there's all the McGills, who are still forested scrub brush land off on the left. There is a commercial district that is there. Nothing is built there.
nothing's built there.
Right.
Article 34, any questions on Article 33? I'm sorry. Article 34.
Article 30.
yes, please, entertain us.
Hi, Carrie Hogan again. So I guess I just wanted to clarify. So we're talking about the community business district, and you described it. So some of the businesses that would be located in the community business would be things like Stop and Shop, Dunkin'
Exactly.
Donuts. So I guess the concerns that I have with this particular zoning change is really just kind of thinking about the proximity of these businesses to the middle school, to the high school. Children, walk after school over to those locations. I would be extremely concerned about any type of retail marijuana facility that would be accessible by our youth, especially, so close to those locations. And so I understand, the reason, for the change, but I know that we do have zoning approved in some areas, so I would think that we would try to look at those areas first before trying to expand to these other more public areas.
Anything else? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
So to follow up on that
Yeah.
point, I'm assuming the planning board is doing this because you've had inquiries from businesses that want to locate within these areas?
That the locations that are zoned office light industrial and industrial right now are either very dense areas within existing village center, so around New England Village, around Washington Mills. That area is zoned industrial. You have very small lots that are 10,000 square feet, that don't really afford to being redeveloped for such purpose to accommodate parking. The other types of properties that are office light industrial are then larger office park type lots, such as Grafton Science Park or Centec Park, or even mass development land where a retail establishment is not going to carve off an acre to build a brand new facility. If you're doing cultivation and growing, that's a different thing. That's why a business like Nature's Remedy was approved by the planning board a year and a half ago. However, back in the fall, because of decisions for their business, they decided to request an extension for a year to build. And most recently, someone went into the Board of Selectmen to meet with them in preparation of potentially coming back to the town for a host agreement and community meeting to do retail as well as potential cultivation within Centec Park area. So the planning board also is relying on existing buffer requirements that are in the marijuana establishments bylaw that basically identifies limits as far as locating such retail locations 500 feet from where children commonly congregate, schools, daycares, and those types of
They want to
uses.
approve one next to Swirls and Scoops is basically what you're saying.
Pizza.
That's where that type of determination gets made by the building department as well as in the application to the CCC. And one of the challenges is that where they commonly congregate is a loose safe phrase as far as to identify, because most of the examples are provided as playgrounds, schools, daycares, after-school programs. You know, and the planning board was also trying to look at uses or locations where there's also liquor stores and those types of uses, since no one 21 years and young, no one under than 21 can go into a recreational marijuana retail facility. Same thing with liquor stores. So they felt that while the board recognized that there are concerns as far as exposing youth to such facilities. They can't gain access. There needs to be a lot of detail on security, how they're marketing. There can't be to use sort of like a older image, Joe the Camel marketing material on the outside of these to then sort of market to youth. And you know, it's something that the planning board feels through special permit that it can permit and identify a proper location.
So that would eliminate any marijuana establishment from the Carroll down to CVS stretch. It's the school kiddies, especially the middle schoolers,
So
congregate heading
But
towards
if
the
it's
pizza
zoned
place.
that way, there is the potential. I think that's the issue this.
So that's something that commonly congregate is not whether or not they walk up and down. But that type of testimony to examine an application, one, there's a community meeting that needs to be held on any of these uses where a proponent is basically engaging the community to identify, is this going to be a proper location? The second thing is that the town gets to entertain a host agreement. So again, another avenue for the town to evaluate on whether a site is proper. The third is the special permit with the planning board. So we're really essentially last, and then we have all these other criteria. So by approving it doesn't mean that one is going to go right next to Dunkin' Donuts. It just means within the CB district that there may be a location that's deemed appropriate. It doesn't mean every single location that is zoned CB is going to be acceptable to the town.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Just to clarify, so basically this Article 33 was submitted last year,
Yes.
voted down, and we're just
It did, right, it did not pass the 2/3 that's required for zoning change.
Got it.
You lost by 1 or 2 votes, I think. All right. Any other questions for him?
Also, because the planning board is bringing this back, it eliminates the 2-year waiting period.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Article 34?
Okay, so Article 34, the intent of this is, in the planning board and staff's opinion, to close a loophole within our multifamily dwelling district. Multifamily dwelling district basically extends up and down Providence Road. We have a lot of the condos, apartments that are within that stretch. However, there is no provision for requiring any of those to have affordable component. So someone comes in with a 100-unit apartment. There's no requirement, under this bylaw currently, there's no requirement for any affordable. We know through the planning board, every time we approve a subdivision and when there's no affordable component, we're just falling back as far as trying to meet our 10%. The planning board and planning department have taken a lot of steps over the last couple of years to put in place bylaws to encourage and facilitate affordable housing, i.e. the 40R in Fisherville, the 40R that we just approved town meeting and a half ago for the 8.8 acres at the Grafton State Hospital. The village mixed use has an affordable component that's required for developments over a certain size. So we're trying to make sure that as housing's created, that we have affordable options in the town. Village mixed use is an example where there is no requirement. The planning board right now is undergoing a public hearing for a 57-unit rental condo development off of West Street. There's no affordable component. That's an example of that's just adding directly to our unit income, our unit count come 2020, just means we have this bigger gap to make up. So this bylaw is intended to allow for developments over a certain size to require that they have affordable housing component in line with the 40R districts.
Any questions?
And this is only for buildings going forward, not going backward?
Correct.
Right.
Darn.
And you're using the word shall, so there's no question it
Right.
has to.
Right, right. Any other questions?
A question about the 5.2.3.3 about the fractional unit. So that means if there's, for example, 9 units, 20% of that would be 1.8, so that would round up. It would always round up, so that'd be 2. If that were ownership, and if it were rental, it would be 25%, so that would be
9.
more than 2, so it would round up to 3.
Calculator out.
Right.
So is that's how it works. So the requirement would be
Yeah, so if they came in at 2.1, you'd round down, 2.6, round up.
Nearest
Okay.
whole number.
That makes sense.
Got to put that in there.
Some towns have it,
It was fun
you're
watching Dan do the math in his head.
2.001, and you still round up.
Yeah, right. Any other questions? I think that's it for you, Joe. Is there,
Petitioner's article, if you want to
would you
speak
speak
about
to
that.
what, would you speak to that?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
That generated a lot of debate at the selectmen's meeting last
one is
last
Yes,
week.
as well it should.
37,
So that should be
37.
37.
yeah.
Why are we doing that tomorrow?
Oh, we are, but we just want Joe to speak to it tonight.
Joe, if I may, the guy wants to put a grow facility in that building that I thought the town had said was a fire trap, and he had to do something and whatever. It was falling apart, the roof had collapsed. That's the building?
Yes.
Thinks he
I'm
can.
gonna assume he's gonna renovate it,
I would think, well, if you leave it open, then you get the rain, you don't have to worry about
straight
water
under water.
and the
At least
sun.
you wouldn't be growing in the portion that had the roof collapse.
Okay.
So, and this is one of those things that the article does not mean his project is going to go forward. Doesn't mean he can achieve the special permit. Doesn't mean that he can get even state approval for the CCC for cultivation and manufacturing. What this article does is just add to the use table under village mixed use zoning in South Grafton, because again, we created those sub-districts, that making what is an N, a cultivation manufacturing, to an S, special permit. So within this district, there could be other locations within the village mixed use district that could apply for cultivation and manufacturing. You cannot, retail is not something that would be permitted. So in this case, the proponent of the petitioner's article is saying that he would end up doing wholesale and all of those things and then sell to people. There really is nothing that would prevent anyone else from growing, processing, and then selling to other entities within the village mixed-use district. Again, we're making a distinction that there's no retail sale. That's not being contemplated by the bylaw. So it's not something that the public can go and visit. This really would be if they made mail order widgets, to quote a Bob Berger favorite quote. If they're making widgets that then they sell on the internet, that would be the same thing. There's no public. It's not like Hubert Candy Mansion where you have a little store you can go and visit. There would be no retail at all as part of this bylaw change. So a lot of the discussion is, well, maybe that's not a good location and all of that, or maybe there's concerns about the quality of the building, things that really are more site-specific. This is just to allow within that district that as a special permit.
Now, he hasn't even applied to the state, has he?
No, he hasn't.
hadn't. So,
He may not even get to the point of even being able to have a community meeting, even talk to the town for a host agreement. There's a lot of things that would have to happen.
because I toured that building, and it needs a lot, millions and millions of work, of
Yeah.
dollars of work,
And
so.
the planning board just held a public hearing on this article on Monday night. And we talked about that. And he basically said, yes, it will require $1 million to update and fix and all those things. And this use is going to allow for that to happen. For the planning board, from a zoning perspective, we can't really take that into consideration. What we're looking at is that the village mixed use has some older structures, mill structures, that could be redeveloped in a number of fashions. Residential is one. He could have, by the bylaw, and by right, by the way, 150-unit apartment building there. That may not be the best use for Grafton, especially because we don't have any control. Now, we did just put in last year provisions in village mixed use for an affordable component, but 2 years ago, he could have just done anything he wanted, and we would have not get any credit. So the planning board did evaluate, saying that within this village mixed use, we do have a larger mill that was historically used for manufacturing, and this cultivation and then processing and manufacturing is not a bad way to revitalize and reuse an existing building. And they did recognize that if someone had a 5,000 square foot building within the village mixed use, they could also cultivate and manufacturing in there. But again, stressing the point, there can be no retail without actually changing the zoning.
Right,
And that's not
and-
contemplated by this article.
I understand that, but if this passes, he's got to fix up the building. Does he understand what the process works with the state? Because this could be like 5 years down the road before anything happens. I mean, he has to jump through the hoops with the state
Oh, yeah.
in order to do this.
I had, so before the public hearing, and he had met with the planning board on 2 occasions, one at public comment and the following week as an agenda item where he presented his petitioner's article. He basically had said that he is working with attorneys and industry experts to identify what would be necessary, including identifying air circulation requirements, filters, and all those things, because the nuisance provisions that the state has, as far as you can't, no outdoor smell, you can't be able to identify by walking by that cultivation is occurring. He's talked to me about recognizing that there'll have to be some sort of water circulation because everything's done by hydroponics, and that any of the waste removal he's going to have to address not only for the CCC but also for the planning board. So there is, for all applicants, and we already addressed this through our experience with Nature's Remedy. We've already gone through and we know what is going to be required for various environmental, water quality, and air quality issues, and we know he's going to have to meet those. And why the planning board feels that with the issuance of a special permit, we're able to appropriately permit and also condition any type of project within this village area.
The planning board took a position on this?
The planning board directed me to draft a report supporting the article.
Just before you go, can I ask you a question on article? Was there any other questions, by the way, on this?
No, just that, yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Dan,
So 37 is also on our agenda for tomorrow. Do we know if,
Mr.
Forget his
Habe's
name, but-
coming in. As far as I know, he's coming in, isn't
Okay.
he?
Yes,
So,
yes.
Okay.
yes.
yep, so we can ask more questions of him when he comes in, so. Barry, did you have something?
Yeah, his approach is very similar to what they did out in the town of Athol. Take an existing old mill building, abandoned, not used, close up the windows and put in marijuana cultivation.
Except that his building is in
Yeah.
bad shape.
His
It is
building
in
had-
very
the
good
one at Athol have a roof?
It was in pretty decent shape, yes.
It had a roof. This one doesn't have a roof. Just
Jeez,
Article
you want
11 on
everything.
the special, the easement for,
Yes.
did that go before the planning board?
No. So just to quickly address,
This is the one on Main Street for the special. Article 11.
oh, special, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Main Street.
Easements.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking Article 10 was what you were speaking
Oh,
about.
the roadway acceptance, yeah.
Just briefly about Article 10, I've been working with DCAM as well as the developer Alfonso, who has a subdivision that will be constructed off of Institute Road, basically for the last 3 years on trying to get to this point. Institute Road, through a court case, was identified as a public road, but it was never identified as having any dimensions. This article essentially identifies a 60-foot right-of-way so that the town can actually do improvements to that roadway in the future if needed.
Wow, no dimensions.
No, it said this has been maintained, it's a town road. That's it.
Wow, that's
But then if
interesting.
we want to do anything off the edge of pavement, we got to negotiate with DCAM.
Okay.
So Article 10 corrects that. And then 11, so basically the Main Street tip project, currently, or 2 months ago, we held the required 25% design hearing with MassDOT District 3. This is now the next stage as VHB is continuing to work on the design for Main Street. We need to now start the right-of-way process. This is going to allow for the Board of Selectmen to start that process and negotiate with landowners to get primarily temporary construction and utility easements, as well as some permanent aerial easements. So if you have to move a utility pole back, you may not necessarily, for someone, depending on their frontage, you may not even have a pole on their property, but those wires are being pushed back. They have aerial rights. So basically, from the Sutton Town line down to Providence Road, we pretty much need to talk to a lot of people. This article allows for that to start.
Okay, all right. We took 2 away from you tonight. All right, any other questions for Joe before you?
No, Joe, good job, very thorough.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you
welcome.
coming in and talking to
you, Joe.
these articles.
Sure thing.
Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of it with your family.
At the conclusion of all the presentations, we're gonna go back and consider taking positions
Yes,
on this?
yes. Becca? We made your work a little easier tonight, 2 articles anyway.
Shouldn't be too bad. All right. Some handouts so you can follow along.
Oh, she's got handouts. Must be for the budget adjustments.
Yeah, but no animated
Annual
PowerPoint
here, special
slideshow
here. Take one
Okay.
of each.
Yep.
with music.
Pass it along.
Yes.
Keep passing it.
Keep passing. Keep passing. Alert.
The schools didn't have us pass these things out this way.
By school, so, yeah, really.
Here's 6.
Okay.
Somebody stole 2.
Everybody got this?
There we are, okay.
All righty.
Somebody might have got a couple of those.
Well, did you have one for
Okay,
you?
I don't just yet.
I'll give you mine back.
We all each got our,
Everybody got it?
yeah, we got one. All right.
Got it.
All right, on the special, Becca, Article 1.
All right, Article 1 is current year's budget adjustment article. So we have what looks to be a lot of adjustments. The majority of them are going to go towards health insurance, surprise. We need to make up what appears will end up to be about $150,000 deficit in the health insurance line for FY19. We had a lot of people come on to health insurance when we made the switch, when we left the GIC and joined Harvard Pilgrim. I'm currently waiting to hear back from Harvard Pilgrim on more detail in terms of who joined from where. We have 75 new names that weren't on health insurance last year that are on this year. That doesn't mean that that's the net. There could have been people that left. There could have been people that retired and just went from,
Okay.
a regular HMO to a Medicare plan. So there is some nuance there, but 75 is a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
So we're gonna be making a lot of adjustments just to fill that 150. Aside from that, there are a handful of others. The police department has notified us that he will need to do a transfer from salaries to expenses. I don't have that amount detail yet. I apologize. I'm still waiting to hear back from the chief, but he
Okay.
guaranteed it to me by the end of the week. So as soon as I have it, you all will have it as well.
Okay.
He has excess funds in salaries because he does get a grant every year, which allows him a little bit of additional money in personnel. Building department salaries to human resources personnel. So if you recall, we've had quite a bit of turnover in the last year in the building department admin position. We lost Jim Callahan, who had been here for many years, 11 years, I think. We had a temp between Jim and when we made our first hire, and then the hire that we made didn't work out. Unfortunately, we had to let him go during his probationary period, so we had to hire another temp while we were looking for our current permanent replacement. A lot of offices can sort of just, manage with what they have. Unfortunately, the building department, because of the number of permits and the cash flow in that office, it's just not possible to not have somebody sitting at that desk, particularly with all the scheduling that person does for the inspectors. So we had to bring in a temp. So that 11,200 will be moved from the admin line in the building department that wasn't being paid out of because Jim wasn't here. And it will go into human resources personnel. There's a temporary personnel line there, so that'll make that account whole.
Okay.
We have a shortage in the municipal salaries line item, overtime for custodians. We've had a lot of events. We've had a few IT issues where someone needs to come in and open the building. Unfortunately, there's a 4-hour minimum with them, so if they have to come open the door for somebody to do something for 30 minutes, we have to pay them for 4 hours. So that 3,600 will make that account whole. It's coming from the fire department training line item. It's a $7,000 line item, and they have informed us that they won't spend 3,600 of it. So that's where that will come from.
All right.
Everything below there highlighted in blue is what will go to the health insurance line. So, town insurance expenses, $20,000. This is the insurance to cover all of the town buildings and properties. Liability insurance, insurance for elected officials, things like that. We do receive rewards and credits every year for doing trainings. You get a credit for paying your bill the first day of the year. And so we have a little bit of excess money in that account that will just go into health insurance. BOS salaries, we haven't rehired the Board of Selectmen admin assistant. It's been vacant all year, so all of those funds will go to health insurance. Treasurer collector, Joanne left us. We're not planning to rehire for that position in this fiscal year. And there's something else in that number.
You're not filling it next year too, right?
As of right now, we're not, no.
No.
Right. There's something else in that 23,000, I'm blanking, I apologize, but if I think of it, I'll come back. Joanne's is a big part of it. She also received longevity, so a lot of that is from her salary.
Is some of this from Sue's salary from moving up?
No,
No? Okay.
no, and I think it might be from Beth. I think when we created the FY19 budget, we didn't know who we were going to hire to fill Tina's position. Tina moved to the accounting office, so we were carrying a higher number, not knowing what we were going to get, and we ended up with Beth, who we were able to secure at a lower rate. So I think there was a little bit of room in that line item, but I will confirm that for you. Clerk salaries. Haven't hired an assistant town clerk. Don't believe it's going to happen before the end of the year just because of the election.
Right.
Conservation salaries, Maria has formally resigned. We're not planning on filling that position as it stands right now. I think Tim has spoken to you all about merging a few positions, conservation being one of them. So we haven't even started interviewing for that merged position yet. So if we do bring somebody on in this fiscal year, it will not be for very long.
Have you finished the job description for that position?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Building department salaries, this is when we hired the current admin person that we have, Bonnie, we were able to bring her on at a lower rate than we had budgeted for Mike, who was the first person that we had hired that we had to let go. So there's a little bit of money in that line item. $1,750 will go to health insurance from there. Building department expenses, $2,000. Bob is the chair of the Metro West Building Officials Group, so he doesn't have to pay his dues, and he doesn't have to pay to attend conferences and seminars while he's the president of that group.
Okay.
So the funds that were allocated weren't spent. The next two, gas inspector, plumbing inspector, salaries, they're paid based on permit. They just go out and do inspections. They don't have, they're not a salaried position. So if we don't get as many permits in, they don't get paid as much. So there's a little bit of room in both of those line items for that.
So Rebecca, that implies that housing development is going down?
I wouldn't say that. We've had tone back in those two lines pretty consistently.
Okay.
In FY20, there is a reduction in both of those personnel lines as a result of the previous tone back. So there's probably some connection there, but I wouldn't say that necessarily that's the case.
Okay.
Council on Aging salaries, Barbara had budgeted for a chef and a part-time employee who can work up to 10 hours a week. She just didn't utilize those two people as much as she thought she would in FY19. Town accountant, Anita did not need to use Eric and Sheriff Consultants as much as she had anticipated needing to in 19, so she has some turn back from that, and there's a reduction in that line as well for 20. Planning salaries, Joe, because of the merging of the positions after Rachel left, and us not rehiring immediately, there's gonna be a little bit of turn back in that line, so we'll use some of those funds for health insurance as well. So all of those add up to about $150,000, and that's just about where we think we're gonna be. Again, the estimates are based on an average for the last 10 months of expenses, so if something radical changes, we could end up needing more, we just don't know. There's also HRA reimbursements that people have a habit of turning in at the last minute because they get wind that this is their last chance, and so we get a lot of them towards the end of the fiscal year. I've tried to account for some of those in the 150, but again, you just don't know.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The Municipal Modernization Act allows for the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen to do all these line item transfers, so you don't have to go to town meeting anymore. And you can do it you can do it in June, May or June, later in the year. Why don't we wait and just do all this so you'll know what the exact numbers are? Why are we going to town meeting when we don't have to? You know, this board and the Board of Selectmen can make these line item transfers.
So we've done it a couple times. I think we
But for
have
s-
had to do it.
For
but-
small amounts.
For small
But I
numbers.
You can do big
personally-
amounts now, it's no longer,
Well, I understand that, but for transparency's sake, I think this should go to town meeting, just for transparency. That's just my opinion, so that people understand, you know.
I think the reason
what's
I
gonna-
think the reason they did that is a lot of this stuff is administrative, because we're not increasing taxes, we're not increasing the budget. We're doing what the school committee does on a weekly basis, moving money around line items that they do to fund various things. I don't see the need for this article. Just my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's, you know, I understand that. It's hard because, you know, you have a,
You have a
12
tradition, I
month-
understand what Sue's saying.
yeah, you have a
It's-
12-month fiscal year, you're expending money for 12 months, but you really only have 10 months to figure out.
Right, and I understand,
you're
and
going
we
to
have
spend it.
done that, we have done
Right.
transfers before. But then this is a very large sum of money, though, and for transparency's sake, I'd really like it to go to town meeting. That's just my opinion, I don't know what the rest of you feel, but,
Yeah, I agree, and you can kind of see, like, basically the way we're paying for this is by not hiring a bunch of spots, and that, to me, tells you where we're at as a town financially.
no.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of information buried in the fact that we're doing this, that granted, it's never a huge crowd, but those people that are coming, you want them to know. You want them to see what it is, you know, the decisions the town has to make and what the ramifications of this are.
Agreed.
Okay, I can see I'm on the minority on this particular issue, let's move
I
on.
understand where
No,
you're
I-
coming from, but
Yeah.
it's just that,
I think it's the
I
size.
think
I'm gonna
what-
bet you all a drink at reunion that not one resident will ask a question at town meeting about these transfers. You guys all on?
Hey, we passed
9 drinks
millions,
for me.
we've faced millions of dollars without one question on our budget, so I'm
That's
not
why I felt
expecting
safe,
this.
that's why I felt safe.
That's
making
why
that
you
bet.
felt safe doing that, okay. And for the other,
I have
do you
a-
want to go, yes,
I have a question. So, I just was a little concerned about the overtime for custodians in the municipal building. So, the FY19 and FY20 budgets are the same. It's 5,500 for overtime, and we're adding an additional 3,600 for FY19.
Yeah.
Is there any concern that we're underestimating for FY20, especially with cutting a 0.5 custodian?
Not as a result of the custodian, necessarily, but otherwise, yes. Yeah. We have talked a little bit about, a few years ago, we used to charge the police station, the fire station, the other locations that the custodians go to, we used to charge some money from those budgets back to the municipal budget to account for their time. We did away with that about 3 years ago, just because it was like, it's all the same pot of money anyway, but to avoid situations like this in town meeting where you're having to constantly move money around, we've talked about maybe bringing back that practice. It's not, it hasn't been set in stone yet. I don't know if that's decision, I don't know if it will happen or not, but that's one of the ways we're thinking about trying to get around the potential shortfall again in 20.
I think you should go back to the union and renegotiate that.
The
Personally, myself,
minimum?
yeah, because it's ridiculous. They come in for 30 minutes and they want to get paid for 4, and it's just, I know most of the time when they come, they do spend more than, 3 or 4 hours, but
Yeah.
are they in the building for those 4 hours if they only have to open it for 30 minutes? No,
Oh,
they
yeah.
leave. So
Oh, no, they're in the building.
Are they in the
Oh,
building?
yeah. If Bob, if there's something that's happening on a Saturday and they know one of them has to be here, Bob will give them other things to do.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
But I
because it
would-
doesn't make sense otherwise. Then it's
doesn't,
really
but-
like.
You're paying for it.
But
Yeah.
in consideration for next time your talks with
Yeah.
union, that might be one thing
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want to
yeah.
discuss, so.
But
All
Dan,
right.
to be frank, yeah, it's a concern of ours as
Okay.
well. It's not, Okay, so highway department, they're about $20,000 short in their overtime line. A couple of things. I don't know if Paul has talked to you guys about the fact that we had some big personnel changes in the highway department over the last year and a half, and quite simply, we had people who did things for free 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and that's not the case anymore.
Right.
We also instituted an on-call phone with the new union contract that went in place last year, which, again, if somebody gets called, there's a minimum, and they must get paid. So it wasn't just the highway superintendent, every time something came up, going out and dealing with it and not telling anybody about it. Now it's, a routine on-call overtime.
David did put in a lot of free time for the town.
He did.
Yep,
But that has been adjusted
yep.
for 20. Assessors, Mary is requesting we move $1,000 from her salary line into her professional technical line. She started the reval process a little early this year, wanting to get a head start. So she's looking to move some funds, excess funds that she has in personnel, so that she can pay that consulting group that she uses now to start the ball, because it's
Okay.
a big undertaking. And you'll see there's also an
An
article
article, I was
to,
going to say.
to fund the other $50,000 of
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah. Beth has requested to move that $5,000 from expenses to library personnel. She needs more part-time staffing to cover leave and to meet minimum staffing policy set by the Board of Trustees. So she asked that this be placed under Article 1. And then animal control expenses to animal inspector. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Animal control expenses to animal inspector personnel. So John Carlson is the animal inspector. He and Tim agreed upon an increase for him, which he has never received in
how about
God
that?
knows how long he's been doing animal inspector services. So we told him that we would get this done in May, so that he could get paid for FY19, and then that increase has been implemented in FY20 as well.
Okay.
All right, Article 2, snow and ice. The current deficit is $174,163. That is the number. We are anticipating that the Board of Assessors will vote tomorrow to release overlay to cover this.
The entire amount?
Yes. But it hasn't happened yet, so I can't be sure. If for some reason Mary is wrong and the Board of Assessors decide to take a left turn, we'll be proposing to use free cash.
Okay. Right now, though, we're hoping it's overlay.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I know after they meet tomorrow, I'll send an
Okay.
email to you all.
All
But
right.
Is that gonna
Mary-
put you, could that put you in a tough position for next year because you reduce the overlay for fiscal '20? Now you're gonna take $175,000 out of the reserve, and you're already gambling that next year the reduced amount is gonna be sufficient. What's the balance in there right now?
Over $700,000. And Mary has done the math.
And for the
board-
overlay, we estimated, what, 300,000 for 20?
No, you knocked it down to 150. You had 300, you
Yeah,
knocked
it's
it down to
been reduced
150,
from
remember?
300 to 150.
To
Oh,
balance the budget.
that's right, that's
Yep.
right.
But Mary's confident that that 150 will cover all of
Okay.
her abatements and exemptions.
And taking $174,000 out, you're probably not gonna be able to keep doing overlay reserve for snow and ice in the future, if you
Yeah,
keep reducing the
That's
amount of year.
probably true.
Right.
Because
But for this year-
sometimes we've taken that stabilization and then put
I
it
know,
back,
yep.
so. All right, let us know, because we have to write recommendations, so.
Yeah, I
As soon as
I
you
think
know.
they're meeting tomorrow morning at 9.
All right.
And I know it's on their agenda. So we'll know tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, Article 3 and 4 will both be passed over as of right now.
All right,
Article 5 is that property reval that I was talking about for the assessors. Mary needs $50,000 to be moved into an article so she can start that process or do that reval.
Yeah.
And she will be proposing tomorrow for it to come from overlay.
So she's gonna be taking 225,000 out of overlay
That's
tomorrow?
correct.
yep.
Okay.
6 and 7, I assume Dan or if someone,
Tomorrow night?
okay. Article 8, this is a conversion to LED for the streetlights. So, as you all are probably aware, we made application to Green Communities for a grant for a second competitive round for $166,000 to replace all of the streetlights and make them LED. Unfortunately, we will not know on May 13th if we have received the grant and/or if we do receive it, how much we will receive. They're telling us now that they won't make awards until probably June or July. So Tim and I talked about this a lot, about what dollar figure we wanted to put down, because we know that if we don't get any grant money, we won't do the project, because it's just, it doesn't make sense. But we do know that it's a worthwhile project, and that the return on investment is good.
Right.
And that it will save us money in the long run. So we do want to be prepared to supplement some portion of the grant if we don't get the full amount. So the way we came up with this number is we took the energy savings per year and the payback in years. This chart was created for us by a consultant telling us that our return on investment is 3.75 years. So in less than 4 years, we'll have made back all the money that we're spending. So we took what we would have spent every year for that return on investment in energy savings, not including maintenance, just energy, and used that as the number that we would put forth for what we would be willing to fund with free cash if we don't receive the full grant. Now, yeah, the Board of Selectmen has to sign a contract with someone to do this. So it's not like by passing this article, it's definitely gonna happen. It could still not happen. But we just wanna be able to show green communities that this town is serious and wants to do this project.
Get up with your grant application, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, no, we've already applied.
No, I'm saying, but then so this is a
already
part of it?
applied.
Oh, okay.
But we did tell them that we would put forth an article to supplement the funding.
Okay.
And if you don't do it, this will just get closed out to free cash at the end? Okay.
So that's how we got the number. You know, again, you can see the savings and the return on investment. I mean, we all know that LED lights are the way to go, and it's been a long time coming, and we've just been waiting for this grant to come through. So
Now we're using free cash for this, for capital, and then another article for the,
Yeah.
and our balance will be then, whatever, do you have an idea what our
Yeah,
balance
so
would be?
actually, if you see on the top,
Yeah.
so on the top of both of these note sheets, I tried to give you like
Yeah.
balance of free cash, just so you can kind of follow
Oh,
along.
okay, I got it, all right, thank you.
Looks like
So-
638,000 between this.
Yep,
Yeah, so the thing to note about the way I calculate, it's worst case scenario. So the numbers that you're seeing carried are as if we didn't get any overlay and we had to fund all of snow and ice with free cash. If we had to use this full 123,435, which I don't think we're going to need all of. We're pretty confident that we're gonna get a substantial grant. But again, we needed to put something down. So that number that you see at the end of the annual, the last free cash, you'll get there. The 638 number, that's
638.
like worst-case scenario, we had to spend every dollar.
What was the balance, do you remember off the top of your head what the balance in free cash was at the end of last year's town meeting?
At the end of October town meeting?
Whenever before it was certified,
Pretty low.
recertified, what was the number in there? Do you remember? After the town meeting,
Oh,
after the
after
capital and
last
everything?
year, it was low.
It was less than this, I
I
believe.
recall we
Oh,
were in the,
yeah, it
well,
was
I
like
think I thought we were in the sixes.
I thought it was
Oh, was it lower?
three
Thought it wa-
eighty-five.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I
Okay.
think you're right.
I
I
can
think
find
it
that
was-
out.
So that's good. So not using as much. That helps, that helps get a
Helps.
number next year.
Right,
So what was free cash May 2018?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
This is actually the same question Mark asked earlier, but I just want to get like the full details because I'm new here. So if this doesn't happen, if we don't get the grant and we don't spend the money, at what point does it go back to free cash for the streetlights?
So it would go to fund balance at the end of 2020. It would go
Oh.
back, well, it would go back into your free cash allowance.
You
It would just
certified for
sit there.
fiscal 21 free cash.
yeah.
Okay.
So they'll include that.
Thanks.
That's what you're, yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to just spend it on something else because you have to have an allocation. So it would just go back to the pot, the free
Okay.
pot. Yeah. I don't know why they call it free cash. I hate that.
It's not free.
Unencumbered.
It's an
Fund
oxymoron.
balance. It's fund
It's an
balance.
oxymoron, yeah, it is.
Okay, so is everyone good with Article 8?
Yep.
Okay. Article 9 is to allow the Board of Selectmen to enter into an agreement for an easement for the new DPW project with National Grid. This is just,
It's more housekeeping than anything.
yeah, it's a housekeeping article.
And the new
10,
electricity up there.
I think 10, does anybody have additional questions on 10 or 11? Joe did a great
No,
job.
Joe
so
did a
I don't
nice
wanna-
job.
Okay. 12 to 17, that's CPC.
Yeah, they're
is
coming
on-
in.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rebecca,
Yeah.
on the new DPW. When I drive on the Mass Pike, I see rock on the side.
Yeah.
Is that, I assume that rock actually carries forward to where the new DPW building is gonna be, so we're
Yeah.
we're blasting and drilling and whatever?
Yeah.
Yep,
Are you on the facility
Yep.
building? Or do you wanna?
yeah, we
I
did,
don't know if you want to talk about what happened.
we've been taking care of the ledge. They're transporting it out and keeping
Is there
some,
a
I
time,
guess.
is there,
What?
there's a lot,
There was, yeah, more than we had anticipated.
that's
so,
what you have,
But everything
contingency
is
funds
working
for.
out. Yeah, we've worked the numbers, so hopefully it's gonna all work out. We'll still end up with contingency at the end of the year, or at the end of the project, so.
Sell it to the local town
It's working,
folk
and
as-
Andy's doing a
as-
good job
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
everybody
He's
on their
doing an
toes, so,
unbelievable job.
yep.
we Sell it to the local town
So we
folk,
need the electricity down there,
Yes.
so.
used for
Would help.
cool walls and all? This is a Revolutionary era walls, can we use the rock for that? Sell it? Sell it to Parole?
I don't know, why don't you go down there and see if you want it? You wanna buy some? You can buy some. Do you need
Buy it
any
and
in your
then
yard?
resell it at premium.
We'll drop it
Oh,
off at your
I'm
house. How's
actually-
that?
Now, wait a minute, there are people who will put up their little walls.
They are carrying some
Okay.
rock away and selling it, but,
Okay.
you know, I don't know what they're gonna do with all of it. I'll ask if you would like some, I'll save some for you. Anyway,
I'm on
moving
the hill,
on.
I've got a good sight line, I can,
Article 12, the Robinson property. We just finished that. We know, oh, that's CPC, I'm
CPC.
sorry.
They're gonna,
Barry
they'll,
got me
they'll
off
give
track.
you all the
Yes, they do.
detail you need, I'm sure.
I'm gonna blame
you have a
Barry.
wall, you wouldn't have to worry.
Okay, annual town meeting,
Okay,
moving right along.
okay.
Article 1.
Article 1, he reports, Article 2, well, I don't know if finance
Are we
committee's
gonna
planning on
have any
making a report.
reports?
I don't, not
No.
that we're aware of, okay.
All right, Article
Nelson
2.
Library trustee, Billy Cook has submitted his name. Again, he's currently a trustee, so he's asking to be reappointed. Article 3 is the operating cost, so this is not the debt, this is just the cost for the kids that attend
Right.
BVT.
Right.
It's $721,070. The BVT debt portion is $49,491 for the total FY20 appropriation of $770,561, which is in the budget document.
right, right.
FY20 budgets, nothing's changed since the last time we talked. If we do realize any town insurance savings in October, that money will be moved to health insurance, because we're definitely gonna need it in '20. And capital budget, so the proposed capital budget, as you all are aware, is $986,622. As you can see, the chart is the list of articles that we plan to liquidate from prior capital plans that have either, you know, we did a procurement process, got a better deal, didn't have to spend all the money. And so those will all be liquidated, so that $16,298.97 will go towards the 986, thus reducing the amount needed to be funded by free cash. And that amount is the 970,323.
That's better.
So it's only
little.
A
13,
little bit, I'm telling you,
Yeah,
this year,
every penny
anything
helps.
else,
Yeah.
it does.
it's only 13 cents for drainage upgrades?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, well, we're trying to just close out that article, so this is the easiest
Anything
way to do it.
Housekeeping. It's good to
Yeah.
close them out.
Transportation bond bill, I actually found out today, the appropriation is actually $498,500 approximately.
How much?
498,500.
Okay.
So it was close. Article 8, authorized contracts, that's housekeeping.
Yep,
Article 9 is the revolving fund spreadsheet or
Yeah.
chart. There will be 2 new ones in there if the 2 articles in the special for the school are approved. Those are on the chart. So if they, for some reason, don't get approved, we'll have to do a little finagling for
yeah,
the chart
okay.
at town meeting, but we're prepared for that. As of right now, Article 10 is a passover. We're not requesting any funds in '20. That article has funds in it, and I can't recall us ever having to use it since I've been here. I think Tim said he's had to make 1 payment out of it
Okay.
Article 11, I think, Mr. Berger, is he
Bob's
gonna come
coming in
in?
to talk
Yeah,
to that,
okay.
yes.
So he can talk to you about that.
Okay.
12 is housekeeping, 13 is unemployment. We're proposing $50,000 in FY '20. That's in the budget as well,
That's a raise and appropriate.
correct.
That seems high. That seems high, 50,000.
Tim's planning on firing a lot of people next year.
Oh, is he?
Last year it was 100,000.
Right.
Because we thought
145 or
that the school
something.
was gonna be laying off a lot of people. Thankfully, they didn't, or I don't know what they did, but they didn't spend the full 100. So there's still a balance in that account,
Okay.
and it rolls forward every year, so we're
Alright.
not appropriating as much this year, obviously. And we sort of try to track, you just don't know, but we kind of try to track. So if money continues to roll forward, we'll appropriate less next
Okay.
year and so forth.
Okay. I don't think there's too many people to fire anymore.
I was just gonna say that.
Quite frankly,
There isn't.
I shouldn't be so smart, but
Well,
really.
the numbers have been
we're
huge
getting-
compared to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, if, I think, well, in 18, we had to get money in the special town meeting because our
Right.
unemployment line was in
Yes,
it,
we did.
in the
yes.
negative.
Yep.
So, 14 WITA, this is housekeeping.
yep.
Barbara gets a grant for the bus, you know about that.
Yep.
Sale of surplus, none at this time. We're anticipating passing over. Article 16, the part-time EDC coordinator. This is the position that was originally funded by an article, then put in the budget, then pulled back out. So this will be $30,000 from free cash. That 648, again, that balance is worst-case scenario. It includes the snow and ice.
Yep, okay.
Will this ever go back into the budget?
Hopefully,
I hope so. I hope we can put it back.
yeah.
It was
It
a,
really should, it's a recurring expense, it should not be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm, is the logic that they're just kind of like using this as a trial?
yeah, for 2 years.
Yeah.
But
For-
it's
for a
been 2
third year.
years, and I
It's
mean,
been
this
3
was, it's been 2 years. I know. I know you're trying to be nice.
I know. I
But
mean,
it was a trial for 2 years and it's been successful,
It
so it
was,
should
and
stay.
John Allen and Joe Layden will probably get up on town meeting floor and do a great presentation about
Yeah.
why they've done a phenomenal job and
Yeah.
all the things, so I get it, I
Yep.
hear you.
Yep.
We want it to be in the budget too, because we think it's a vital part
Well,
of,
we understand why it
Okay,
came out.
cool.
We
Okay.
understand why it came out, so.
all right. Yeah, so
CPC's coming in for
16,
that.
CPC 17 through 23, they're
Yep.
coming in. Long-range IT, so I think we've talked about this before, but I think you all know about the computer replacement plan that we're doing in this upcoming fiscal. So we're requesting 10,000. Part of that will go towards replacing a lot of those machines. We're also funding a portion of that replacement out of the operating budget as well, because we don't want to draw down too much on the long-range IT, because that's really for unforeseen things out in the future. And I think it was at the recommendation of the finance committee that it was created, so
Okay.
it's been great. So we are requesting 10 grand to go into that account. I think we're gonna pass over 25. We do have mandatory retirements for the fire department in FY '20, but we think that we can cover those from the fire department personnel line. So that's the plan right
Now we
now.
can tell Sue that.
If we have to
Okay.
do an adjustment, we will.
Alright.
But that, right now, pass over. South Grafton Water District hydrants to be accepted, that's housekeeping. I don't, is Justin Souza or Mary coming in to talk to you
Tomorrow.
about? Okay,
Yes.
so he'll do great on
So
27.
these were not approved last year, right?
The
One year we had, we approved them and they had already been approved, so,
the hydrants?
yeah.
These were actually supposed to be approved, and were not approved.
So we
these
got
are
it all
both-
mixed
Yeah,
up.
we got it all mixed up.
Okay.
Because I looked at the date on the letter, and it was like September of 2018, and then I looked at October town meeting, and they weren't
Because we
on
had
there. So,
approved
I know.
some and they were wrong and we
Yeah.
were supposed to approve these instead,
Yes.
so, okay, got
And-
it.
And
Yeah.
I think I asked this question last year. This goes to town meeting. Town meeting says, no, we don't want to pay for these.
And we
So
still
who
pay
pays for them?
What?
Who pays for the hydrants? If town meeting says, no, we don't want to pay for them.
We do.
We have to. I mean,
Eventually, we'll get an unpaid bill,
Yeah.
And that'll
Yeah.
require a 9/10 vote at town meeting, and then if we don't pay it, then they'll take us to small claims court, and there'll be a court judgment against us, and we'll raise it on the recap sheet regardless of town meeting.
And we'll spend money on court
Eventually,
costs
they
and
have to get
everything else.
paid, yeah, they have to be paid. Town meeting really has no choice.
I would expect that, yeah, okay.
All right, Article 20.
I think that's it, right? I think everything else is
For
gonna be
you,
covered
yep,
by,
yep.
Well, we're voting for it, you can
So-
vote for it, against it.
that's the plan.
Article 27.
Yeah.
And 27 to 29, those are the tax exempt ones.
Yeah, those are for the veterans exemptions.
Yes.
So Justin's gonna come
Oh,
in and
Justin's
talk
gonna
about
speak to
those?
those, okay. All right, I just saw the town administrator's name at the bottom, so, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Any questions for Becca before she leaves? Nope.
It's uneventful.
I will double check the budget numbers with you
sit
just
out
to
there
make
when you
sure we have the
present
your-
correct
Yeah, you have the
ones in
right
there.
ones?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
that'll be good.
I'll double check that with you. I'm almost done with the town
Sit out.
message, so
think so. I think
I'll
you
have
should
you
also-
look that over.
don't
Okay,
wanna stand
the
up at the
budget that's on the
podium.
website is the right one.
Oh, okay.
So if,
I got
but
that
we
one.
can, you can send me something and I can
expect-
check it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, okay, sounds
Kids
good.
cheering and.
That's good? You guys are good?
Enthusiasm.
We're good, thank you
Okay.
very much for coming in,
Thank you,
appreciate
Becca.
it.
Thank
If we have
you.
any questions, we know where you are.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Becca, good night, you too. All right, where's my agenda?
Who's this guy Smith that's coming in
Oh,
here tonight?
Becca?
Some people have been
I don't
Next on the
hunting,
know,
agenda?
some ornery citizen.
people have been hunting for him.
Ray Mead in the meeting on May 9th, Becca, I'm sorry, is the joint meeting with the town
Oh, yes,
moderator?
I'm sorry. I have received
Sorry.
confirmation from Ray.
Yep,
I haven't heard from Sargon, but I think we should, it's gonna happen in the 9th, because it can't happen in the 7th, because there's too much on the board's
Yep.
agenda that night,
5/9 for the
We're
joint
gonna do the 9th.
pre-town meeting.
9th, May 9th,
The 9th at 7?
okay,
Thank you.
all right. Everyone knows what that is, right?
Yep.
Okay. You all been to
Thank
the
you.
October town meeting, right?
Yeah.
All of you have, y'all.
Yeah.
Still a throwback from when I lived in Texas and all my Texas friends, y'all. All righty. Up next,
Harry Smith.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith goes to Grafton. Everyone got their tomatoes ready?
Thank you. Okay.
Jack, we
My
got
name
a
is
good-
Barry Smith. I am here representing myself. I am not representing any board or committee. And thank you for inviting me to discuss this warrant article. So what inspired me to chase after this petition to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board? Well, because words are important. Words influence perceptions, and perceptions can be quite powerful. A little story. I recently met Senator Harriet Chandler, State Senator Harriet Chandler, at the Citizens Legislative Seminar conducted over 2 days in the Boston State House. Individual senators, sitting senators, came in and ran us through sessions on what it takes to get a bill into actually being a law. And it's quite a challenge. Each one started off with a little bio. And Senator Chandler's biography I found really interesting and relevant to what we're talking about here. She was one of the first married women to be able to teach in the Worcester schools. She was the only woman who decided and got elected to the Worcester School Committee. She then decided to run for state representative representing the Worcester district. She also was the first woman from Worcester to be elected to the state senate, and then was actually the second woman of all women in Massachusetts to be appointed or elected to Speaker of the Senate. Kind of an interesting progression. She certainly had the credentials: bachelor's, master's, MBA, doctorate. In fact, she was awarded a second doctorate for her expertise in government management and government administration. And yet, each time she considered moving to another position and getting elected, et cetera, she was hesitant. I mean, this is a person with exceptional credentials. She was hesitant, she was reticent about doing that, because, as she said, in many cases, women just didn't do those sorts of things. Okay. She also indicated, as she persisted through this, she also indicated that it takes a community to change policy. And that's what I am asking. I am asking for our community, Grafton, to consider changing the policy for the title of the Board of Selectmen over to Select Board. Because words matter, words influence perceptions, and perceptions can be powerful. Now, our open town meeting form of government harks back to the 1600s, certainly the 17th century, and the 18th century. A lot of tradition behind that. It's 280-some towns that use this open town meeting form of government in Massachusetts. But we're in the 21st century. This is the age of inclusion and diversity. And how has Grafton done in being inclusive and diverse? Well, since 1961, 58 years, there have been 5 women elected to the Board of Selectmen. Only 5 in 58 years. In those 58 years, there were 241 seats available. Some years, there were only 3 people on the board. In other years, especially now, 5. 241 seats. 87% of those were held by men, 13% by women. Now, okay, there's no rule, no law, no bylaw, no charter statement that says women cannot apply. And we have had a number of very good women who have done exceptional work on that board. But only 5 in 58 years? Is there a perception here? You could contend that maybe there's a perception that says, as Senator Chandler found, and maybe there's something that's holding them back. You could argue that, well, gee, they're busy, taking care of kids, working, taking care of the house, paying the bills. But that sounds like what the men have to do also. So, how about the word select? Each of the people who runs for that board puts themselves out, gets in front of their community, talks to the citizens, says, this is what I think we should be doing on this board, and this is what we should be doing in the town. And they get selected by their town citizens, by their neighbors, by everybody else, selected to serve on that board, and they do a lot of good work on that board. But are there other boards and committees in Grafton that are gender specific? Is there a school committee men? Is there a board of assessors men? No. This is the only one that is gender specific. Are we unique? Are we going to be the pioneers in making this change? How about other towns in Massachusetts? So 280 plus towns use the open town meeting form of government. They have a board like this. As of 2017, 30 towns had made the change to select board, including Groton. As of less than 2 years later, 2019, I counted 74 towns in Massachusetts that had made the change, and there are more in flight. Now, each one of them has expressed the concern that words are important, words shape perceptions, and perceptions can be powerful. Now, when this is approved at town meeting, there are at least 3 other steps, and this would require town administration to jump in and help push this forward. The first one would be we would need to revise the town charter and the bylaws. I contend we don't need to have a charter commission to do this. This is not a 10-year exercise. We don't need a committee. We don't need meetings and outreach. All we need is for someone to crank up their computer and do a global replace on the 93 references that would need to be changed to select board in the charter, and the 112 references in the bylaws that would need to be changed to select board. That could be done by volunteers, it could be done very quickly, but that's only the first step. The second step is, if we change the charter, we have to get it approved at town meeting. I think we could easily do that at the October town meeting, and it has to be a 2/3 vote. There are actually two paths for doing this, but I'm suggesting what appears to be the simplest and straightforward one. The last step is, we have to go through the state. And when I contacted Senator Moore's office, they indicated you go through the Attorney General. And since this is a relatively straightforward change, just changing titles, it should not take very long for the Attorney General to complete that. So, words matter. Words can influence perceptions, and perceptions can be very powerful. So that's why I'm asking for you to vote in favor of the initiative to change the Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
I move we support Article 35.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions from Mr. Smith? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right. Don't push it.
I usually do.
Now, I
That was a
want
very
to be
nice
called
presentation.
chairwoman,
That's what I got.
Chairperson.
chairperson. I don't want to be a person, I want to be a woman.
I actually got an email from a guy on the, I don't know, the House or something. And he identified his pronouns that he wanted to be called by.
You want
His
to
word, his pronouns.
Pronouns, I want to,
He, him, his were the pronouns that he was okay with.
Okay.
Matt, you're on.
All right, so like Barry, I represent myself in this discussion, and I would submit this warrant article for your consideration. So I'd like to read the text of the article to see if the town will vote to create a capital improvement bylaw committee whose function is to create a proposed bylaw establishing a capital improvement planning committee as described in the Grafton Town Charter. The committee will research the capital planning function and define in the proposed bylaw a strong mandate for the capital improvement planning committee. The membership of the capital improvement bylaw committee will consist of one member of the Board of Selectmen, one member of the finance committee, one member of school committee, and 2 members at large to be appointed by the town moderator. The capital improvement bylaw committee will be dissolved immediately after the town 2019 fall town meeting. So, and just a little bit of background, I guess, on this particular warrant article and some of the circumstances around it. So, I've been on CIPC for 3 years now. I've been through a couple of budget cycles. And my observation on that committee is that it doesn't have a very suitable charge for what Grafton's capital planning needs are. An example of that, and this is just one example of some of the limitations that the current CIPC has. We got a memo from the town administrator in September of 2017, so this was a couple of budget cycles ago. Essentially, I won't read the whole thing, but what it says is you're to only, as the CIPC committee, you're only to consider things that are brought forth by the town administrator. We don't want you talking directly to the budget heads. We don't want them submitting any capital requests directly to the CIPC. It felt very much like you guys need to stay in your lane. My feeling in getting that memo was very much that we didn't have all of the information that we needed to really do capital planning, and that this was much more of a rubber stamp type of committee for a list that was brought to us for an up and down vote. In this day and age, and we know, we're facing some significant challenges, particularly next year, but this is a recurring thing that happens in Grafton. We need to do better with our capital planning process. So I think in anticipation of a more robust capital planning process, the next thing that I refer to is the Grafton Town Charter. So in section 6.6-7, there is language in there which basically says the town administrator should submit the capital plan, but then it goes on to say that that capital plan should be based on material presented by the capital planning committee established by bylaw, if any. So the people who drafted the town charter have already made accommodations for this. They anticipated the need to have this capital planning committee. And some of the things that they put in as examples of the capital planning process, I think are perfectly appropriate for a CIPC to do, but the current CIPC with its charge are not actually allowed to perform those functions. So it was thought of, it was planned already. Lots of towns around us have capital planning committees that have more robust charges than we do. So why do it now? I think or why do this? I think the main reason for this is to create a committee that's going to be inclusive. So we have somebody from the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and the school board, as well as a couple of members at large. So it's an inclusive committee. We'll have lots of different perspectives to take a look at our planning process and create that strong mandate for the capital planning committee. So we want to do that. We also want to create a CIPC that is stable. So CIPC's charge has changed over time. It has progressively gotten more and more limited. So what this will do is actually establish something with a bylaw that will be more difficult to change, so that will establish a more rigorous approach to capital planning, and it also will be something that will be more stable over time in town. So part of the reason that we want this particular group of membership is we want to gain buy-in. It's going to be important when we go to actually propose a bylaw to have buy-in from the Board of Selectmen, from the school committee. So we do want to make sure that we have everybody's perspectives covered and that we have thoroughly kind of vetted the bylaw and the charge of this particular committee. And that we do have sponsorship from the various boards and committees. So I had a thought that maybe I would just go to town meeting with a bylaw change. But I think this is a way better way to do it because we do have representation from the important boards and committees in town. So that's why I did it that way. I think it's really important that we do this now because we're facing an override next year. And my thinking around that is one of the main issues that I see with capital planning is the funding source. So, lots of discussions with our town administrator, as well as within the context of Finance Committee. It's become pretty obvious to me that the funding primarily out of free cash over time is not going to be a sustainable practice. At some point, we're going to need to look at other funding sources, whether that's, we do have an override coming up next year. That might be an opportunity to take some additional revenue from the increased levy and put that towards funding capital. We could fund a capital stabilization account, for example. We could look at the potential host agreements with marijuana. That might be a potential but the point is that somebody should be looking at this and should be doing the planning with a more kind of future-looking perspective than what we have now, which is very much reactive and year to year. So I think it's important that we do that. If we could have this established in the fall, potentially that committee could get started pretty quickly and could inform some of the discussions, relative to the 2.5 override. I've put a couple of references in there from the GFOA in terms of their multi-year capital planning process. Also, the Grafton Town Charter, if you want to read through the full charter, as well as the Mass DOR, Department of Local Services recommendations on capital planning. So they have a sample bylaw, which I would kind of point this committee to as a template, essentially, for creating that bylaw in the fall. So we're not, reinventing the wheel here. It's something that's fairly common practice, in towns around our area.
Any
Questions?
questions? Any questions?
I move we support Article
Can
36.
I ask me?
You can ask a question, I
Wait,
make a motion.
He can make a motion. Go ahead, Mark.
I wanted to, we don't have a CIPC section in the bylaws?
No, it's a Board of
only in the
Selectmen
charter.
committee. It's in the charter, but the charter says if any.
Okay.
We don't have a bylaw, so there is no bylaw that
We don't.
created it.
So the
That's what
current
this will do.
CIPC falls under the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
It was created in 2011, I believe.
Okay.
The reason that it was created was Tim McInerney had recently become town administrator, but was not living in town.
Yep, yep.
And his thinking was it would be a good idea to have an advisory committee put together to look at priorities and funding sources and other things. I asked him a couple of years ago whether he thought there was continuing value in CIPC as it exists today, and he said that he didn't.
Yeah. And one of the primary exercises of the CIPC would be to interview each of the department heads and say, what is it that you think you will need, a new building or whatever, and start looking at estimates on costs and stuff like that.
So I want to avoid a little bit prescribing what the bylaw would look like.
Okay,
But
okay.
that's one potential way to do it.
Okay,
So Tim he's just started I think he calls it a capital congress, where he meets with all of his department heads. Another way to do it would be to have the capital planning committee sit in on that congress, right? So, this is not, I want to strenuously avoid criticizing too much what's gone on, because I do recognize the work that's gone on to try to put budgets together year after year. But I do also strenuously think we could do much better.
Yep.
And that's what this article's all about.
I actually have two motions.
No.
I move we support Article 36 as my first motion.
second.
Motion's been made in second. Discussion? Skip, did you have please come up here, please. Or here.
Caution you to not run afoul.
Yeah, you want to come up to the microphone and do your shtick, I get to be the
Roger
constable.
Currier, 3 Matthew Circle. I think that this may be ill-founded in the context of trying to revise the charter and pass bylaws that aren't part of a comprehensive review. And the time for revising the charter is over for the next 5 years.
This doesn't revise the charter.
Well,
This creates a committee that
if-
the charter allows. The charter contemplates a capital planning committee.
Right.
We just don't have it. It says by
Exactly.
bylaw.
So it's creating something that is only mentioned in name there, Mark.
Yeah, so it says established by bylaw. Matt wants to establish the bylaw.
Well, we haven't reviewed the bylaws to do a comprehensive review of the bylaw. I think that you probably remember we
that's what this
talked
committee
about
does.
That's what they're
that.
going to do.
That's exactly what this
That's what the point of this article is.
To establish a bylaw review committee?
No, it's to establish a committee to create a capital planning bylaw,
That's right. Because there is none right now.
because there is none.
Oh, I
right now.
realize that.
So this is,
This
so basically,
is-
this is gonna create a bylaw. This committee, if formed, is gonna create a bylaw that town meeting will have to vote on.
All right.
We're not circumventing the charter.
I also think that what in the end is happening here is that we're taking something out of the budget process and creating a whole nother process for it that used to exist before this committee was informally established by the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator.
Creating a
I don't wanna
bylaw
argue with
doesn't
you. I'm
take-
so sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry, but creating a bylaw doesn't take anything out of the process.
the capital budget was always part of the budget.
Yes.
And
That's
now
not what
you're,
he's-
now, what it seems like you're trying to do is take that out of the budget
Nope.
process and create a separate process for it
No.
So if I, so if I
through
may,
legislation
Go ahead, Mark.
Roger.
in a new bylaw.
Roger, the responsibility of creating the capital budget is still, by charter, the responsibility of the town administrator.
Correct.
What this committee does is assist and help the town administrator create the capital budget that he's statutorily required to create. That's all this is doing. We're not taking any power from anybody. We're not changing the way the charter works. We're not taking away the duties and responsibilities of the town administrator. It is a committee, because right now, in the Charter says the town administrator shall submit a capital improvement program to the Board of Selectmen, or soon to be Select Board, and Finance Committee at least 150 days before the start of the fiscal year. It shall be based on material prepared by the Capital Planning Committee established by bylaw, if any. So all we're doing is creating the if any.
I'm gonna interrupt on that for a second. That, in my opinion, is potentially ambiguous. Because of the comma, I read the if any as referring to the material, not to the planning committee.
No.
That's not how I read it.
That's not how it's meant.
So, getting back to this again, the capital budget is part of the budget
Yes.
that should be debated much like the rest of the budget. And the only thing that happened with the creation of the committee was to give Tim some direction when he first started the job and wasn't around here. If that committee has reached the end of its useful life, then get rid of it and deal with the capital budget through the regular budgeting process. That's all I am saying, because that's the way it had been done in the past, was just strictly as another line item in the budget.
So this isn't just about the budget, though.
Thank you, Skip, for your comments.
My motion stands. I move we support Article 36.
And I still
Motion's
second.
been made and seconded. Any further question or discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed?
I have a second motion. I move that if this article is approved at town meeting, our representative is Matt Often.
Oh, second.
Motion's been made and second. Discussion. If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously.
Since I'm in a mood to make a lot of motions, which
You just-
I usually do, which is my job,
That's your job, that's
I
right.
move that the
Eva.
Finance Committee supports Article 30 as written.
Are we going back to annual?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
All right,
I was going to go in the order that we did them tonight, unless you want to start at the
Okay,
beginning.
all right, you're gonna go Article 30, which is the planning board.
Yep. So I move we support Article 30 as written.
Second.
And motion's been made second. Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 31.
I move we support Article 31 as printed in the warrant, as presented in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion or questions? If not, any? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 32.
I move that we support Article 32 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by, I think, Irene. If, discussion? I didn't.
I'm gonna get my name in the
She got here
minutes.
first. Discussion, if none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
I move we support Article 33 as presented in the warrant.
Jump over 32?
I did 32. Didn't we just do 32?
Yes, we did. Yep.
So 33. I'm moving we support 33. I'm expecting some debate on that motion, if it's seconded.
Do I have a second? That doesn't mean we can't discuss it if there's a second.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second. Discussion.
Oh, go ahead, Barry.
I've been reading more about marijuana and its impact and et cetera, and, look, I'm a child of the 60s, and there's an awful lot of stuff that can happen when people have decided they're going to toke a marijuana. Get that, toke?
I see what you did there.
It's pretty clever, but I
a
just
cool
see
thing.
problems for the town going forward. We're gonna do it, okay, but anything that makes it easier to put up, to sell marijuana in town, I'm gonna vote against.
I remember when this came up, and I don't remember if I spoke out loud at town meeting on it or not, but my feeling at the time was, I think I did say this, or maybe I said it in our meetings. I was fine with moving slow, because I remember, I believe it was one of our meetings, somebody was saying, well, why don't we just zone, make all the zones that we think are possible? And we said, look, we can always go back and change it. I'd rather start slow. I still feel that way. I'm not crazy about putting this into community business, even by special permit. At this time, this still remains a specialty item that people will go out of their way to get. We don't have to have it visible the way that Swirls and Scoops needs to be right there on the street, or the car wash needs to be right there on the street, because unless you see it and pull in, you're not gonna go looking for it. People will hunt this down. So I feel that I don't want to be unfair to people trying to start a business, because I know how hard that is, but a little disingenuous to say, oh, well, it's too far out of the way. Well, people are gonna come find you, I promise you. I mean, look at some of these remote places where the current ones have been opened, and people are flocking to them. Talk about out of the way, and you're telling me it's too inconvenient to have to get to Centec Drive when people are going to Oshkosh?
That wasn't what I heard Joe say,
No.
that it was too out of the way. What I heard was that he had businesses coming that couldn't find suitable locations within the existing
That's what I
zoning.
heard. What Irene is saying, he did mention that on some of those industrial zones, they don't want to carve out a small retail section of them.
Right.
I did hear him say that, but.
Okay, that's a little
Yeah,
bit different.
no, but I understand exactly what you're saying, but we have a process in place. We have a planning board that's elected to oversee the zoning. They have to go through special permit. There has to be public hearings, and I have faith that the planning board is going to be very diligent in determining a location and whether or not they're going to grant the special permit. Now, the only issue is special permit denials are subject to appeal to the Superior
Right.
Court. So that puts us in a little bit of risk. But I have faith that the planning board will do the right thing moving forward. So that's why I made the motion to support this.
But I don't think the planning board is going to be hesitant of denying a special permit if they strongly feel.
I agree.
It isn't going to
That's
be
why I have-
there,
that's what I'm
because I
saying, I
know
have
the
faith in them.
members.
Yep.
So, well, sort of.
I guess I also have trouble understanding what the concrete concerns really are with allowing marijuana retail and community business. I guess it's things I'm hearing are we don't want it to be too close to the schools or where kids are, but I just don't see why that's a concern.
Well, the state has a law that says that it only can be so far. There has
Right.
to be a certain distance from schools and stuff, so I mean,
500 feet?
but the state has covered those issues, so.
There is one other concern which is very legit, in my opinion. As it stands today, this substance remains illegal on the federal level.
That's why it's a cash business.
Yeah, that is a concern. Now, let's say that they finally get it together and next year, all of a sudden, it becomes nationally legal. Maybe a lot of people's opinions change, about where it can go, et cetera, but it is still a concern for a lot of reasons. This is unique. This is why it's not directly comparable, to alcohol sales.
But
And to
this-
me, that is a factor.
But
It
is
is-
that concern unique in any way to retail and community business, or is that about marijuana in general? Because that's not the question here.
To me, it's unique to community business because our community business zones, look a certain way and are in certain places. Whereas the industrial places that we are preferring this go are more remote and look different.
See, the federal level doesn't concern me because there's a lot of states that have gone ahead in spite of all of that and
I guess
not forcing it.
My next question is,
So-
what are the what are the concrete concerns? There's a lot of, oh well, there's this
Generalities.
broad general thing like we don't want kids nearby, but what are the bad things that can happen? The specific bad things that would
Two
happen.
things, a couple of things. Number one, anytime it's easier to get to a place, it's easier for kids to find a way to get a hold of things. We see that with alcohol. Let me finish, okay, because that's just one, okay? The other thing is, Barry said words matter, okay? Why is it that we tend to zone things and put them in certain places? We don't want them to be such a normal, everyday part of the landscape that we become immune to it. that it no longer stands out. We don't want this at this point in time to be that way. We want it to be something you have to go searching for, that people don't just look at, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna go buy bread, and let me go buy a few pumped up gummy bears, and I'll go get my car washed. At this time, I believe, and, you know, other people do, that, no, we want to keep this a little bit separate. We don't yet want it to be completely normalized. And maybe someday we will. Okay, but at this point, there's still this sense of, no, I don't want it in the plaza next to all these other things that I'm always taking my children to. Now, maybe children aren't congregating, but I'm going into Koopmans. Okay, I'm going to, you know, the credit union, I'm going to Swirls and Scoops, we wouldn't put it near there, I would hope. I don't know. And I'm a child of the 60s as well, born in 1960, grew up in the middle of this. Okay, so I have no moral thing. I'm not like, oh my God, this horrible stuff, I can't believe we're even doing this. I don't have those kinds of reservations. Okay, but I do understand in terms of the nature of the town, how we want to present, what we want people, particularly our children, to see at any given time. What is it that they see every day? And we would like it to be some things and not others.
If that's the argument, though, I mean, there's a liquor store right across from Swirls and Scoops, and, you know, I think Dan has been, you
Yep.
know, approached by kids asking him to buy liquor, so.
Okay, what happened one
God, I
time?
love it. Oh, God.
It does happen.
Dan, I'm shocked.
No.
He said no.
And
We're recording.
she gave me a teenager eye roll and walked away.
That's hysterical.
For you. Any other further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
After your comment, you're abstaining.
I-
So you
I'm
want
surprised
to take
after
a
Irene's
roll?
comment, she
Sue?
voted for it.
You know why I did, and here's, having said all the things, what I was doing was kind of supporting those people who I know might feel differently. The reason I voted for it, who said it, I think it was you, Sue, that's persuaded me was, I have faith in the planning board. I kind of.
That was
felt-
actually me.
Okay, Mark, I'm sorry, I knew it was somebody. I felt that to say no was kind of a slap to them. What, I don't think they work as hard as we do, that they haven't had these discussions, and that was what made me say, okay, I'll say my piece, because I sometimes like to also just present the, other side of the arguments. But I felt in fairness to them and knowing how much time they've put into it, I needed to support them. And that's why I voted yes on this.
Sue, do you want to take a roll?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll start with you, Sue.
yes.
Okay. Irene?
Yes.
Erica's absent. Dan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Heather?
Yep.
Matt?
Yes.
And Barry?
Be a weenie, Barry. Say what you mean.
Vote with your heart.
No. You're
No.
against it. You voted no.
No,
You're
Voted no.
voting no. Okay.
So 7-1.
And Eric?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
So 8-1.
I've just read
Oh,
so
yeah,
much
7-1, that's right,
about
Erica's not here.
Yeah.
the amount of THC that is now available as to what it used to be, and the impact that it can have. But, the town voted in favor of it, so I'll have to go with the town.
They're different grades. Not that I know anything about this.
I'm with you on that. What I would like to see happen is, I wish that they would regulate it like they do alcohol in terms of content.
And
But that's not our decision to
And the
make, and we're not
federal
gonna do it with
government
the zoning laws.
has not
That's what it
done
comes down
the
to.
federal-approved research on whether it really does help people on cancer, whether it really does help them with their, everybody thinks, oh, munchies.
I move the question.
Doesn't. There are other things.
We already
there.
voted. All right.
Article, I move that the Finance Committee
can't believe I've
supports
become a
Article,
grandfather.
recommends Article 34 is printed in the warrant.
Second.
Hold on, I have to get back there.
What did I just vote in favor of?
That's
The
Article
affordable housing
34.
one.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's easy.
In fact, we should go backward in
Motion's been
time.
made and
If anything, I
seconded.
would want it to be higher.
Who seconded,
requirements, but
please?
Me.
Oh, okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Can't we make it retroactive to all?
Yeah.
If they could, they would like to do that, but they can't. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I-
Motion carried unanimously.
I'll ask the chair, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to look at the special
Well,
town
what I
meeting?
would like to do is go through the special.
Okay.
And make assignments as we're doing that as well.
I move we support the budget adjustments as presented this evening in Article 1.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Question, motion carried unanimously. Who would like to write that article?
It says Susan's going to write it.
Yeah, but I don't know if I really want to.
Oh.
I
can
wrote it
write-
last year, but
Do you want to write it, Mark, or?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Do you want to wait to hear from the assessors on 2, or do we agree that we got to fund it one way or the other?
We have to fund it one way or the other.
I move we support the transfer from either free cash or the overlay surplus to fund, to wipe out the snow and ice
Would you put
deficit.
the amount in, please?
174, I'm sorry,
163.
163.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion?
No, I'm sorry, it's 174, 163. Right, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 2 is going to be written by,
That's already written. Just have to put in the number.
oh, okay. Sorry.
So, I missed the seconded for the first one and the second. Was that Barry?
Barry
or
on both.
Both?
Barry wants his name in those minutes.
Who wants this name in the minutes?
Yes,
Right.
very
Article
important.
3.
Okay, so if they're going to withdraw
pass
Articles
over.
3 and 4, do we,
We have to we just put a statement that these will be passed over at town meeting.
okay, I move that we pass over Articles 3 and 4 at town meeting.
Second.
Well, I'd say we oppose.
We,
Yeah.
Oh, we oppose
Right.
passage. We oppose passage of
All right,
Articles,
all right.
of Article 3. I'm sorry.
did we?
Second.
I thought we talked about this before, about the confusion with
we
opposed
fix the
passage
wording?
versus approve passing over.
Yeah, what did we do in the fall?
Fix the wording.
I think we did approve passing over.
Yes,
just
we
so,
did.
Just so the language is we approve, as in we're not disagreeing with what the selectmen are about, are just proposing.
right.
Did
we
she
did do that.
definitely say that these are going to be
Yes.
passed over for sure?
Yes.
Okay, then we can,
All right,
if
so
you want to
I'll go back
amend
to my
your
original, I'll go back to my
motion.
original motion. I move that we pass over Articles 3 and 4.
All right, seconded? It's been seconded by Eric. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Who's going to write those? We have to write something.
They're already written.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, that because they're not needed. Well, it says here, Finance Committee.
Well, we can write some, Sue,
I'll
you
write-
can write
I've got
something
them.
up.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Um,
Article,
I move that we support Article 5 in the amount of $50,000 to fund the townwide revaluation under Article 5.
Second.
motion's been made in second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 6.
No, they're coming tomorrow
Oh,
night.
they're coming tomorrow night, that's right. Article
we-
7 as
Who writes
well.
that 5?
The property evaluation is free cash? Do
Yes.
you need a funding
No, overlay,
overlay?
from overlay, yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have been clear. Article 8, I move that we support the transfer of $166,000 from the excess and deficiency fund
Did
to
we
fund
jump
Article
over
8.
6?
They're coming.
They're coming, 6 and 7.
we-
Oh, they're coming tomorrow, okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm sorry, it's
On
called free
Article
cash
6.
here, it's not excess and deficiency fund,
Yeah.
yeah. I move we transfer $166,000 out of free cash to fund Article 8 as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Oh,
Up
second.
to, do we do up to 166?
Not to exceed?
Okay, I'll amend my friendly amendment to not to exceed
Not to exceed.
Not to
166,000.
exceed once, yep. All right. Who seconded that?
I'll second it.
All right. Motion's been made in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 9.
I'll
I'll
Oh, that-
I'll write that one too.
You get it?
All
Okay.
right.
Do that. Article 9, I move that the Finance Committee support Article 9 as presented in the warrant.
Please, because the DPW needs electricity.
Yes.
Second.
Okay,
Motion's been
second.
made second by Irene. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 10.
I move we support Article 10 as written in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 11.
I move that the Finance Committee support Article 11 as presented in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Who's going to write Article 10 and 11? Heather, can you do that? Okay,
So I'm doing Article, just to be sure, I'm doing Articles 1 and 8 on the special.
okay. Heather's got 10 and 11. CPC will be in to talk about their
So we want to go to the
articles.
spring, the annual town meeting?
Can we do Article 17, please? For special?
I thought we already did we do that
We
one?
did.
I thought we did that one
Oh, we
already.
voted that at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yep.
Right, all right. Who's going to write that art? Oh, it's already
It's already
written. I
written.
wrote it already. I did this at 11 o'clock at night, so I don't remember what I'm doing. All right,
Back to the annual town meeting.
yes.
I move we support
What were
Article
we doing at
1.
11 o'clock at night?
Writing warrant articles.
I move we support Article 1 as written in the warrant.
Second.
Are there going to be any reports? Do we
No,
know?
this actually adopts the town report. So
Oh, okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 2. Who's going to write Article 1? Dan?
I have it.
Oh, you've got it, all right.
So, do we recommend that the appointment, so the finance, my motion would be I move that we support Article 2 as written in the warrant and support the nomination of Billy, help me with his name.
Who's going to be?
Nomination or
Is
appointment?
Is Billy Cook going to be?
It's an election.
Oh, the election of Billy Cook.
It is,
Election
At the town meeting.
is what it is.
but we do know for sure it's going to be Billy.
Yeah, that's what she has written here.
Okay, all right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those, discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Dan, you want to write Article 2?
It's already written.
It's already written. You guys are good.
Article 3, I move that we support Article 3 as written in the warrant in the amount of
721070.
No, this is a different.
721.
What is it on the, Becca gave us yeah, because it went down.
I'm sorry, what's the amount?
It went down.
72070.
Yep, that's my
Yeah,
motion.
'cause you, all right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Was there a decrease in student enrollment?
Yes, there was a decrease.
Okay.
I move that we support Article 4 as written in the warrant in the amount of $49,491.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Do we have I'm sorry, I didn't bring my copy of the budget. Do we have the total amount of the budget?
Yep. Let me get it out
5
here.
million. something.
$1.98.
That's what we're getting pretty much down to.
I want to make sure I say the
All right.
right number.
The operating budget is $61,996,457.
I move that the Finance Committee supports the operating budget under Article 5 in the amount of $61,996,457.
Motion's been made seconded.
Oh,
Who seconded?
Second.
Barry seconded. Discussion. If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
And I'll write that summary.
Yes, I would appreciate it.
Article 6, I move that the Finance Committee support the capital budget as proposed by transferring $970,323 from free cash and close out various warrant articles in the amount of $16,298.97 for a total capital budget of $986,622.
Second.
Got that, Sue?
I don't, but I know
Right
it's
off
on the
this-
paper.
right off this page,
Yeah,
Yeah, all right. This, Matt seconded it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Do I have someone to write the capital? Matt, would you write that?
Sure.
All right.
Article 7, I move that we support the transportation bond bill in the amount of, what did she say,
498,500.
Yep.
$498,500.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. That has been written
been
by
written.
Sue. Article 8.
I move that we support Article 8 as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Article 9.
Should we hold off on 9 because we don't know, we haven't talked to the
Yeah,
school committee
Jay will
yet?
be coming in for those.
Yeah.
Article 10, I think she said more than likely will be passed over, but
She did, there are no requests for 20, so I move that the finance committee recommend the passing over of Article 10.
all right. Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's been carried unanimously. Who wants to write article, well,
I did.
Sue, you got it. Article 11,
We're going to do that one tomorrow night.
tomorrow.
Yep.
Treasurer collector, Article 12.
I move that we support Article 12 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 13.
I move that we support the appropriation through taxation of $50,000 for Article 13, unemployment compensation.
Do I have a second?
Yep, second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion?
That is the
If-
basic raise and appropriate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said from taxation.
yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 14.
I move that we support Article 14 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 15.
I move that the finance committee
Oh, that's-
recommend passing over Article 15.
Correct.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried
I'm
unanimously.
sorry.
Article 16.
I thought we had a couple of extra vehicles that they were looking to get rid of.
No,
She said they're
she
not-
said no.
nothing.
I asked, and she said there's.
Okay.
There's nothing.
Yeah, not this year.
Article 16.
That's coming from free cash, right?
Yeah, I got a real problem with this.
So do I, but
We can't.
All right, all right.
they had to balance.
We all have
the
a
budget.
I move that we support Article 16 as printed in the warrant and that the sum of $30,000 be transferred from free cash.
And he's okay with working part-time for 30K and,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Well-
he works part-time.
He has been for 2 years
He
now.
has been already for 2 years.
I get the impression, oh, okay, okay.
Would he like to go full-time? I'm sure he would, but he's indicated he'll continue on the part-time basis.
Did I get a second?
Second.
Discussion. What did you want to know, Eric?
Well, can we not recommend it and it still goes in front of the town?
Well, we can, but if we don't recommend it, then we're going to be without.
There's a lot of people.
A lot of people listen to what we
that
say.
Don't
Yeah.
want it.
Can't we not recommend it, but the town still passes it?
Yes,
Yes.
that could
Well, we
happen.
could, but then the town's going to say why, and then,
Well, the way I see it, if we don't recommend it, that means we want this article to fail, and then there's no money for the position. It's not whether we want it in the budget or out of the
Okay.
budget. That
Well, I
question, I
think what
guess.
I
we
want
can
it in
put
the
that-
budget. That's my
I agree,
hesitation.
but
we're going to recommend passage, but I'll write it, because I would like to say something about it should have remained in the
That was going to be
operating
my
budget.
recommendation.
I
All right,
was going to say the same thing.
So we
All
all
right.
hold our nose.
all right, did I get
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
I move that
And
we,
CPC, they're coming in.
They'll be on Monday.
Article 24, we're jumping to.
yep, I move that we support Article 24 in the amount of $10,000 from free cash as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Sue, you just put down the review by John Stevens, and that's
What did you
not
just-
right.
What did I do?
You put review in CPG chair for the review.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Copy
Just
paste
so-
error.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's like you've been absent for a while.
yeah.
What are you doing?
A lot
I
of
move
cut
that
and
we
paste.
recommend the passing over of Article 25.
Irene, do you want to write, excuse me,
Sorry.
Mark, do you want to write our Article 24?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right.
I move that we support,
No, pass over.
It's a
I move that
passover.
we recommend the passing over of Article 25.
Second.
Motion's been made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Article 26.
I move that we support Article 26 because I don't want Barry to be upset that these are not accepted by the town.
But it's South
Please don't put
Grafton.
that in the motion, Sue.
No, I move that we support Article 26 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Second.
The motion's been made in
Where people
second.
don't
All
have
those in
fire
favor?
hydrants.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Barry, you write that
So
article.
you want me to write?
You write it.
And that's it.
27.
That's better.
Justin's coming tomorrow, right?
Justin's coming for those.
28.
28,
29.
29, all right. If you could get all your, did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Were we gonna do the planning board, or did we already do the planning board ones for? Okay.
We already voted on all
I
those.
took it out of order. 'cause
Oh,
I was
right,
trying to
okay,
go
I
in the
remember,
order.
yeah.
You went with the
I was trying to go in the
agenda.
order of the people that came in tonight.
So we're going to have a long meeting tomorrow night, but if you could get started on what you know, for what we're recommending, and then we'll assign, names to the other articles after we hear what they have to say when they come in. And we can do that.
The 2 citizens petitions,
Well, hopefully you're gonna
We
write
passed
yours
Both of
and
yours, and then we're
Yeah, we
we're
approved
talking
that.
to Bob
Right,
tomorrow.
I thought there would be an august board that would write
Oh, you want
mine.
to
but-
write
Okay,
Matt, do you want to write your own
got it.
recommendation? Why not? And Barry, you write your own
Got it.
recommendation for the citizens, okay?
do we
You
need to
would be
continue, move to continue
boneheads
the public
to-
hearing to tomorrow night at 7?
Yes.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion's been made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. On to the agenda item. Please get your recommendations written up as ASAP so Sue can get them. We don't want to overburden her already. How are you doing, Sue? Holding up okay? Good. Glad to hear that.
Happy to be back.
The Grafton Sustainability Commission, I understand, is going to come up to vote at the next BOS meeting. They held it off because Jen wasn't there. So,
I thought they were holding, the which sustainability?
the Grafton Sustainability
I
Committee.
thought they were gonna hold off because some people were, well, one guy's not gonna be on the board anymore, and there might be a change in another one. I thought they were holding
No,
off. for that.
I was told it was held off because Jen wasn't there.
Ah, okay.
Because
Never
I
mind.
think one guy who wants to be on, that's on the board wants to vote
Mm-hmm.
on it. So, if you have any influence and support this, just send a little note off to the Board of Selectmen saying that you'd like to see this, so.
Should we designate
anyway.
our representative on that board? Or there's 2 from this committee?
I think they were asking for 2 for the
Should we
committee,
decide who
so
that is, or you wanna wait until they create
I
it?
think I would rather wait, so. Minutes, may I have a motion for March 27th, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor? Opposed? I don't know.
What are you
It
asking?
was, okay, so I'm in favor.
Okay. Opposed, everybody was here. Passed unanimously. You didn't do the 16th or 30th,
I
right,
did
Sue?
not.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
I'm working on the budget presentation. I've had to cut it down a little bit. It's nothing going to be like Ed. I'm thinking a different.
That's very direct.
Well, he writes a lot of things that, when I read it, it kind of jumped all over the place. I'm trying to do it
Yes.
methodically, but I will try to get it out to everybody by Friday so that you can look at it. And please send your remarks to me and we can discuss them on Monday. And hopefully we can approve that message on Tuesday. I'd like to get it out to Becca and Tim as well on Friday so they can come back with comments. But I'm trying to write a message that explains our budget and where we're at, what we had to do for FY '20, and then I'm going into what we're looking forward, what the future looks for Grafton. I'm not going to say we need a override. I'm going to say that I think we need to look at a lot of things and make a decision as to whether we need one or not. I
It can't be a
kind of like to
foregone
leave it.
conclusion, I agree with you.
And I would like to write it in such a way that it isn't negative, but it's positive, because we're all in the same boat, and we all need to be working together to solve our problems for Grafton. So that's kind of the aim I'm going for in the message. So please do not be brutally honest with me. I've been working so hard on this to make it word. I don't write like a lawyer, and I'm not that, yeah, I don't like writing, but hopefully I can. True. I didn't put any shells in there or anything like that. So I will get it to you Friday as soon as I can. So anyway,
Do you want any support?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Materials for that?
what?
Do you want any support materials, PowerPoint
No,
or
I
anything?
just assume
No?
not. I don't want to glaze people's eyes over, because once you start talking about a lot of numbers, they just kind of zone out on you. And I wanted to make it more
Narrative.
narrative, but a more of an emotional appeal so they understand what we went through this year, that it wasn't that easy, you know? So anyway, I do
Do that with
have,
PowerPoint pictures,
I do have.
running around
Do you want me
screaming with their hair
crying
on
pictures?
fire.
Crying, you've got crying pictures, that would be good. I have a bill here for the reimbursement for internet use for Sue for $63.
So moved.
Second.
I have motion's been made, second discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. That's that.
Internet reimbursement.
See you all tomorrow night. Everyone's going to be here tomorrow night?
I'll be a little late.
You'll be late.
Sue, can you please look at the agendas, please? I have to post. And now you guys really know that I'm.
The 25th you're looking at? Did you post 25th? No?
Yes, the 25th is posted.
What other agendas am I looking at?
It's behind your meeting schedule.
Oh, okay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mark.
Okay.
Can we do that? I'm just going to adjourn, Sue, you and I can look at that afterwards, okay?
Okay.
All right, why don't we do it like
He's
that?
asking you not to adjourn, he wants to address.
Oh,
I do
I'm
have-
sorry.
I do have in my usual fashion half-baked and backwards transfer request.
Yes, but we didn't get the request
Right.
from Tim yet, but he did contact me and Sue, and so, you have it?
It's here, only Anita hasn't certified the money that's in the account, but it doesn't matter.
Well,
There's-
it's not on their agenda, and I can't do it
Right.
either.
I understand that, you cannot officially act on it. I do not wish, on the other hand, to pull a Toma.
Why don't you give the, as soon as Anita, Sue,
I will send this to her. I have to
Anita?
have Anita sign
please.
because there is a line item
Done.
for replacement equipment.
Yep.
We had not budgeted to have to buy a new lawnmower.
Uh-huh.
But the lawnmower is starting to
Thank you.
cost excessive amounts of money. We have another $1,200 repair bill. So if we look at purchasing a new mower, we'll get $1,500 for the old one. We won't have to pay the $1,200. And we can eat $3,500 out of it, out of what we have in the budget.
Okay.
So we're requesting $6,900.
So get that signed by Anita, we'll put it on the agenda for Monday.
Tim. And Tim.
Oh, Becca signed it.
Oh, good.
But we'll put it on the agenda for Monday to get it voted on.
Okay.
You're not gonna be cutting grass before then, are you? Night, Mark.
Yes.
You
I'm
are?
gonna go get this tomorrow.
All right.
I'll pay for it myself.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made second. All those in favor?
Aye.